Alrighty boysies, how's it going? How's it going this fine day? So, I thought a wee while ago I reviewed I ranked every Halloween movie, and I thought, fuck it, let's do a wee follow up with some Friday the 13th, because when your old dad was about 14, 15, he was obsessed with the Friday the 13th series, and I watched them all after my mate we got the box set, because I had a pal who, I don't know if he looked older or we just thought he was like the oldest looking one out of all of us. So he went and bought the box set of Virgin Media stores, the big one in Sauchiehall Street, and we sat and binged these movies literally all over our weekend. And I loved them when I was younger. But now obviously as I've got older and my palate's changed a little bit, I've watched better horror movies, I've watched more horror movies, obviously I've matured a little bit, and let's have a wee look back. I've rewatched quite a few of these with my partner because she's recently just got into Friday the 13th, and some of them my opinions changed of. But anyway, Friday the 13th came out not long after the success of Halloween. In fact, I think it was literally made as like the studio went, right, just make it a cheap Halloween, and more boobs, more violence, more all that, just so then we can try and sell it as Halloween. And this series was famously hated by what's it called? The censor board. I forget what it's called. It's the BBFC over here, but I can't remember what it's called in America, because this series is cut to fuck. But we're going to start off, because I've been yabbering on already for about 90 seconds without doing anything. So, we're starting off with Friday the 13th part. Oh wait, I should explain the rankings first. So we've got your blanks are fucking just so juicy, dude, which is one of my favourite lines from the remake. That's top tier. Real Dead Meat, that's from part 6. That's that's really good. You Dumb Dildo is fine. That's from, I think, part 5. And Damn Enchiladas, also from part 5. Because what does Damn Enchiladas cause? Cause it's shite. And that's what movies in this ranking are. But anyway, we're going to start off with the very first Friday the 13th movie, funnily enough, called Friday the 13th. Now, do I go straight into spoiler territory, boys? Because it's a well-acted slasher movie. It's got some really standout special effects from Tom Savini. Especially the one that always stands out in my mind is the kill on Kevin Bacon's character with an arrow through the throat. But the main thing people remember about this movie is the fact that it's not Jason Voorhees. Fun trivia. It is Pamela Voorhees, or Jason's mom. It's the killer, and I forget the name of the actress, but she's got a really good performance in it, and also the ending fucking sticks to me with Jason jumping out of water. I like Friday the 13th. Again, it's hard after watching, movies that it's clearly been influenced by, like your Black Christmas, your Halloweens, and your slasher movies of the ilk, that it is very derivative. But I do like the twist of it being the mother and all that, so I'm gonna put it in Real Dead Meat, probably near the bottom of that tier. Then next up, because they were rushing these movies out, I think they had literally almost one a year, Friday the 13th Part 2, The Body Count Continues. Now, this is when they introduced Jason Voorhees as a killer, and honestly boys, what a hot take, this is probably my favourite look for Jason, with the bag over the head and the pickaxe. It's a really unique look, actually really fucking scary, because the thing is, with the hockey mask you can tell it's someone wearing a hockey mask with a bag head, you can't even get the shape of his head. I don't know, I thought it was really cool. One thing Friday the 13th I always remember is that it's always got weird side characters. And I think 2's got a really likeable amount of characters. Of course, I'm trying to remember. I'm getting confused, that's part 3's characters. Anyway, never mind. Part 2 is good. I remember there's one thing I like is there's a character who is in a wheelchair. Because apart from Texas Chainsaw Massacre in this, you don't really get many characters. Like my partner's a wheelchair user, so she thought it was kind of cool to have representation in the movie, and also that character's used in the Friday the 13th video game as well. I think this one's got some creative kills, and it's a decent slasher movie. So I'm gonna put Part 2. I'll put it slightly above Part 1. Also, I really like the ending where with Jason jumpsuit, and then it cuts to her in the. Did she get out? No, you don't know. Oh yeah, also they start off this one by killing off the final girl from the last one, which I always found that weird how they didn't just stick with her. But anyways, we'll get into returning protagonists as we go through. Right, now we'll get our first one that I'm not too fond on, Part 3. Now, Part 3's whole gimmick was 3D, because I imagine 3D, like Amityville 3D and shit like that, it was all the rage at the time, because we tend to go through every 30 years, like the 50s had, you know, its bit of 3D, the 80s had its bit of 3D, and then I think in the late 2000s, so early 2010s had a big run of 3D things. I remember seeing a shit ton of 3D movies around that time, because then every movie was converted to 3D and pay extra for 3D glasses, and we have moaned about something. Friday the 13th Part 3 is very gimmicky, and I can imagine it's cool if you've seen it, because there's a lot of scenes with, like, for example, the character with a fucking, is it that wee paddle bat, whatever it is, you know, the ball and bat, whatever it's called, I don't know what to call it, ball and paddle, and he's like facing towards the camera, and everyone's like, whoa, or Jason will stab, and obviously it's meant to be poking out, or the bit where Jason kills someone with a dart gun. The only character that jumped into my mind here is, I remember the prankster character, and apart from the gimmicky kills, Part 3 doesn't really land. I don't know, I wasn't a big fan of Part 3 compared to the rest of them. Part 3 is going in, you dumb dildo, because it's not bad, it's just, it's fine. Part 3 was then followed up with, I don't know if they were planning just ending the franchise there, but we've got Friday the 13th, the final chapter, also known as Part 4. Now, this is what first time they kind of have they have like quite a few different protagonists. They have a character who's hunting down his sister, who was a protagonist from 3. You have a character, you have the party, like, you know, the party and teenagers, who I think Crispin Glover is played by one of them is played by Crispin Glover, and obviously that's a really fun bit with his dancing, and then the Ted, where's the goddamn corkscrew? I like that, but one of the main sort of bits is Corey Feldman's character. He's this young boy who is obsessed with monster masks, and then obviously Jason feels this weird, like, Jason never kills kids, that's one thing that's always been sort of a thing in the Friday the 13th movies, but Part 4 is probably, I'm gonna put Part 4 in your blanks are fucking just so juicy. The Part 4 is really, really good, and see if the end of it would be a great way to end the series, because I think the ending's genuinely a really powerful scene. It ends with was it Tommy Jarvis's sister? Basically they kill Jason, and after Tommy distracts her by Tommy shaves his head to look like Jason when he was younger, so Jason pauses and she hits Jason with a machete. Jason then falls down, and Tommy Jarvis sees Jason twitch, whether that be like whether he's dead already and that's just reflexes, or if he is trying to get back up. Corey Feldman then picks up the machete and just fucking lays into him. And I think you can see, right, I might be getting confused. It has been a wee while since I've seen it. I say a wee while, it's been about a year or two. I can't remember if they do the bit with Tommy Jarvis possibly being the next Jason, or in, they definitely do it in 5 as well. But anyways, 4 is really good. Now, here's a fucking hot take, boys. Here's a really hot take. So 5, right, this is Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning. Now, this one was made by a guy, like, I've read up a little bit, but I didn't read up the full thing. There is a lot more that goes on about this in the documentary Crystal Lake Memories. The director of this put in a shit ton of basically softcore pornography. So there was rampant drug use on set, so this one's a lot sleazier than the other ones. This one's set at a home for children, I'll say children, like young teens or teens with mental disorders. A lot of the time, because obviously Tommy Jarvis is still scarred by his actions in Part 4 and the whole experience with Jason, and he starts seeing Jason, I think, and it's pretty cool. I like that. I should say he's actually played by a guy called John Shepherd in Part 5, who spent, I think, a wee while in like, around people with mental issues and people with other conditions like PTSD and stuff like that, to kind of get an idea. He didn't know he was casting a Friday the 13th movie, and as soon as he realised what he was in, he's like, oh, for fuck's sake, he never would have accepted, because Friday the 13th's name was Dirt. I think it's only looking back on it now, we're like, oh, Friday the 13th's actually kind of cool. I think they were supposed to really look down upon when they came out. But anyway, Part 5, the killer's not Jason. Let's mention that. The killer is not Jason. The killer is a copycat killer. I think this one has my favourite cast of characters, bar maybe Part 4. I really like the survivors in this. I really like the music, especially jumps out to me. What's this sort of song? His Eyes by I forget the band. And I don't mind the fact that it's not Jason. I think people hate this movie because it's not Jason Kelly, but only, like, don't get me wrong, the movie is not a classic. The movie is not great, but I really enjoy this one. This is one of my personal favourites from the series, and it ends on an interesting note with Tommy maybe taking up the mantle of a new Jason. Could be cool. But anyways, Friday the 13th, I'm going to put it in real dead meat tier. That's the hot take. People are going to really dislike that one. But I really enjoy part 5. Just my personal thing, you know. Don't take my opinion personally. I listen to the band Creed. You know, I can't judge anyone's opinions and vice versa. But part 5 bombed horribly. So they decided to, you know, bring Jason back, and they came up with Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives, and that's a fucking cool poster. So Part 6 starts with Tommy Jarvis, now played by a different actor, played by Tom Matthews, who puts in a really good performance, and actually has appeared in quite a lot of Friday the 13th fan media, like fan films and the like, you know. And Part 6 is... Remember, Part 6 has some really strange editing and really strange side characters, one of them being the pinball guys. A lot of it's shot during the day, which is very strange. But Jason is revived because Tommy Jarvis wants to make sure that he's dead. So he opens up the grave and starts stabbing him with, I think it's a steel rod that is lying about the graveyard. Lightning hits the steel rod and brings Jason back to life like he's fucking Frankenstein. And from here on out, Jason is this weird immortal zombie. Don't get me wrong, I love when people take wild swings in horror movies. Absolutely love it. Probably the best thing that's happened to Jason. You know? It adds to this weird, otherworldly sort of feeling to him. And it explains why he can teleport about and all that shit, you know? Because otherwise, he's just a big cunt in the woods, you know? But if you give him all these weird powers, you know? But anyway, Part 6 is pretty good as well. I'm going to put that in the real dead meat tier. I'd probably put it above Part 1, above Part 2. I think, oh, this is it. Because Part 6 and Part 4 are considered the best in the movies. But I'm going to put it in just below Part 5. I think I enjoy it just a bit less than Part 5 because, I don't know, Part 5's got this sort of sleaze about it that I really like. That makes me sound like a fucking weird pervert. So be it. But aye. Oh, I forgot to mention. Part 5 has an appearance by, I forget his name, a character called Demon, who basically is a biker who has the horrible shits, but he has the horrible shits and he keeps complaining about his damn enchiladas, and then Jason kills him and his girlfriend. But when I think that actor, I think he's in Return of the Living Dead, and he's also in Street Fighter as DJ. Anyway, enough about your boy there. I think that's what puts Part 5 just above, because I see that actor, I'm like, yes. One of these guys, like, whenever I see him, I'm just like, yes. Right, now we have Friday the 13th Part 7, because Part 6 ends with Jason getting pulled and dropped at the bottom of Crystal Lake. Now, this one is basically Jason versus Carrie, because there's a young girl who has these telekinetic abilities, and after her father drowns, I believe he drowns, yeah, she comes to Crystal Lake, I don't know, to get away with something, to get away from something, get a holiday. A couple of her friends come to have a party, and her powers somehow awaken Jason. Jason goes on a killing spree. This one I remember was cut to fuck editing wise. Still pretty good though, because this is the first one that Kane Hodder played Jason. Now Kane Hodder went on to be possibly the most famous person to play Jason, due to his immense stunt work. Jason gets fucked up in this movie. He gets thrown through things, he gets houses dropped on him, he gets set on fire, and honestly, the story isn't really there for this one, but the stunt work Jason does is really good. Or Kane Hodder, so take a bow, Kane Hodder. This keeps it in the real dead meat tier, I'd say. Unfortunately, Kane Hodder's stunt work could not rescue the next movie. Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, because at the end of Part 7 he gets dragged down to the bottom of the lake again, and that's where he gets woken up by for some reason a cruise ship going from Crystal Lake to supposedly Manhattan. Now, it's actually shot in Vancouver because they ran out of budget with this movie, and he spends maybe, I want to say about half an hour in New York. Most of it is on the ship. Now, I have no problem with it being on a ship. In fact, I think it could be kind of cool. But it's the fact that you've completely sold yourself. You've completely sold your movie over Jason, the murderer, being in Manhattan. And this one was really bloodless. There was, like, I hate to say this because story's the most important thing with these stories and characters. Kills are not important. Well, you can have a horror movie with very little kills, you know, but when your movie's like Friday the 13th, kills are really important in my opinion. And this is where Jason Takes Manhattan's really, it's not, even the characters aren't really interesting. Like, I remember there's a boxer guy who has the fight with Jason on the roof. I'm making this sound much cooler than it is. This movie's just a wet fart. Friday the 13th Part 8, and it ends really strangely as well. It's You Dumb Dildo, it's the worst one so far. It ends with them fighting where your main character and our love interest are running away from Jason in the sewers. For some reason, in the sewers, I don't know, I've never been to New York, I wouldn't know. I imagine that radioactive waste isn't flushed through the sewers every so often, but Jason gets caught in that and for some reason turns back into a child and then washes away. It's really strange. But from what I can gather, there was a lot of legal issues around here. Now, this is why the next movie isn't quite called Friday the 13th Part 9, and in fact this one's not included in a lot of collections. Now, remember I said I like people taking big swings? I think this might be too big a swing. Now, I love how this movie starts. Friday the 13th Part 9, Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday. Oh, what a mouthful, take a breath, Mikey. This movie starts with Jason hunting down someone only for an ambush to happen and the police fucking blow Jason away. You've got my attention. You've got a start to a movie. Where are we going with this? Oh, we're just gonna have the Necronomicon. We're gonna have a connection to this dagger and the Voorhees family bloodline actually being demonic and Jason being a demon. This wee demon worm, as you can see in the poster there. Actually, the other thing is I actually really like Jason. This looks really cool. His mask's sort of sunken into his face. But it's really weird how, like, Jason's actually this demon that is possessing people. There is some interesting shit in this, but I think it is too big a swing. I respect it for taking big swings, that's the thing, but it's a shit movie. It's boring. For a movie that is as wild as it is, it's somehow really boring. So yeah, it's the first one to get the damn enchiladas treatment. I think it may actually be the only one to get that. We'll see how it goes. We might move things down a little bit. Next up, because where do we go from there? Actually, Jason 9 ends on a really interesting note. It ends with Jason gets reborn basically in his body and gets sent to hell because they read the Necronomicon and shit like that. And Jason gets sucked to hell, leaving Jason's mask lying in the sand. Freddy Krueger's glove comes out of sand and it pulls it down to hell, and you hear like Freddy going, ah, ha, ha, you know, his big Nightmare on Elm Street laugh. And I can imagine that being like fucking seeing Nick Fury in the Avengers, that level of hype. Holy shit, because that's wild. Like, this is the first big horror crossover in years since fucking Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein and Dracula and shit like that, you know. So I can imagine it's being hype for Freddy vs Jason. Freddy vs Jason wasn't out for about 10 years. Maybe not 10 years, maybe a wee while at least. Now, I can't remember what one comes next. I can't remember if Jason X or Jason X comes next. Now, where do you go from Jason going to hell? I know, Jason going to space. Now, I know I just complained about the last movie taking wild swings. Fuck me, I love Jason X. Jason X is some of the most fun, and the thing is, the movie knows it's fun. The movie knows it's mental. Basically, Jason is held in this military thing because he has this regeneration power. That's why he can't die. So military have him tied up and they're going to experiment on him. Something goes horribly wrong, and Jason and the scientist that's been working with him are frozen. We then cut to like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years in the future above, and this ship from Earth 2, full of a professor and his students, are coming to check up on this military base on Crystal Lake, and they find Jason, and they take him back, and they defrost the professor. Jason wakes up, goes on a killing spree, including, a robot girl, a lot of VR training, which leads to possibly my favourite scene from the whole series, where Jason is walking through the VR section, and he sees two scantily clad women who go, "Do you want to smoke pot and have premarital sex?" And Jason just looks, and you can see and it just cuts to Jason, who has one stuffed in a sleeping bag, hitting the other one who's stuffed in a sleeping bag, and he's just bang, bang, fucking howling. So fucking funny. But yeah, then anyways, Jason's blown up, and he comes back as Uber Jason, a giant metal Robocop murder Jason. And the fight ends with, zero gravity, and I really like Jason X. I was hooting and hollering, and I had a great time. I'm going to put Jason X in the real dead meat tier. Oh, actually. Oh, right, you know what? Fuck it. Moan then. Your blanks are fucking just so juicy, dude. I have a great time. I'm not saying it's a masterpiece. I'm not saying it's a fucking 10 on 10 movie. But when I'm looking for just pure entertainment value, when I'm looking to just fucking piss myself laughing, when I'm having a shit day, and I'm going, I want to have some fun, I might put Jason X on. And then, in a similar note, we have Freddy vs. Jason. Now, Freddy vs. Jason... Right. This came out around the same year as Alien vs Predator, and I think this was rushed, I want to say, or Alien vs Predator was rushed. I can't remember. One of these movies was rushed. I was completely in the hype for this. I was about 10 years old, and I was upset. This movie came out on home video at the time, and I was obsessed. I was always reading up about it. I was reading the horror magazines. I was reading the back of the videos, reading the back of the DVDs. I was getting all excited, and I remember at a sleepover, I sat and watched this, and oh my god, amazing, 10 on 10. Obviously, the movie doesn't stand up that much now, but Jason's back, and Freddy is slightly possessing him or telling him to do things to frame it so that, because Freddy lives on, people's fear of him. So he uses Jason to, bring that fear back. Freddy comes back. Jason goes, "Oh, you? No." And Freddy and Jason fight. I really like this movie. Again, does it have the deepest story in the world? Absolutely not. Does it have a lot of stupid shit in it? Yes. The weird Freddy caterpillar comes to mind. But when it comes to just sheer enjoyment value and sheer, fun I've had it, I'm gonna put it in the real dead meat tier. I'll probably put it, because boys, I'll move part 7 down to You Dumb Dildo tier. But after Freddy vs Jason, after it ends with both of them falling in the water, and it ends with Jason coming out and holding Freddy's head, Freddy winking at the camera, going ho ho. It was actually, and I don't know how much of this is true, but I believe there was different pictures for Pinhead, for Ash, because Ash was a comic, Freddy vs Jason vs Ash, and a sequel, which I've read both of them, and one is fine, 2 is better. Nightmare Warriors is actually it's very expensive now, so I wouldn't suggest buying it. Get a fucking copy of it online. But there was a bunch of different things, and Friday the 13th was in this weird legal limbo. It still is. How certain things, different people are trying to make different movies. There's a lot of cancelled projects. I might actually do a video about cancelled Friday the 13th projects, because a lot of them are kind of interesting. But in 2009, we got our up-to-date, most recent Friday the 13th movie, barring fan films like Don't Hike It, was it Never Hike Alone, Never Hike Alone 2. We got Friday the 13th by Platinum Dunes. Now, are you ready for another hot take? I really like this movie. I think this movie does a great job. It clearly knows what it is. There are lines in it like I'll just say what it is. Your tits are fucking just so juicy, dude. And during the same sex scene, there's a line like, "Oh, your tits would win a tits competition." The movie clearly knows what it's doing. It's kind of so it's really interesting because it does literally, as the start is going in the first maybe 2 minutes, it shows you the highlights of 1. Then the first 20 minutes are part 2, and the rest of the movie is basically part 3. Now, the movie clearly knows what it's doing. Clearly, you can tell there's a sense of fun in the movie. You can tell everyone was having a fucking great time. Special effects are really good. Characters are surprisingly fun. There's a really good pair of stoner pals that have really fun chemistry. There's the blonde boyfriend character, who I imagine is called Chad Chasington or something like that, is the most cartoonish dick you have ever seen in your life. And it's got a pretty fun performance by Jared Padalecki, I believe his name is. I might be getting that very wrong. Okay, the one from Supernatural who's not Soldier Boy, the other one, the one who voiced Batman, and Jared is. I might be very, very confused here. I think I'm getting very confused. Anyways, I might be very wrong about that. But anyway, Friday the 13th, 2009 is a surprisingly fun movie. I had a lot of fun with it. Much like a lot of these movies, but I'm gonna say, I'll probably put it at the bottom of the Real Dead Meat tier, because it does have its flaws. It is very derivative of the rest of the movies, but it does have a sense of fun that I feel is really even lacking in the other Platinum Dunes remakes, especially the fucking Nightmare on Elm Street movie remake with Jackie Earle Haley. But Friday the 13th has the same sort of campy fun, even though it's played a bit more straighter than the rest of the Friday the 13th movies. I think it still has that sort of fun side to it that these movies all kind of have. So, anyways, what we're going to do is we're going to rank them. We're going to go through our rankings. So we've got, in the shit tier, Damn Enchiladas, we have Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday. In You Dumb Dildo tier, we have Jason Takes Manhattan. We have Friday the 13th Part 3. Keep that in order. We have Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood. Then in Real Dead Meat, we have Friday the 13th 2009. We have the original Friday the 13th, Friday the 13th Part 2, Freddy vs. Jason, Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives, Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning. Oh, what one do I like the best? Probably Part 4. Then in the Your Tits Are Fucking Just, so juicy, dude. We have Jason X, and the toppest of Friday the 13th movies in my opinion, Friday the 13th Part 4, The Final Chapter. So hi boys, thank you for joining us, and I take care of yourselves, and never hike alone, none of that nonsense. I want to end with a quote from the movie. Damn enchiladas, I guess. See yous!